us on Facebook at Daunta A. Long. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta A. Long. Thank you for tuning in to LongTalk.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Trust everybody is doing well on this wonderful Tuesday evening, and thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to LongTalk on this Tuesday edition. And we're so grateful to have another opportunity to come to you wherever you are and wherever you're tuning in from on this evening to be a part of this most meaningful dialogue here on LongTalk this evening. As I always say, if you don't mind, ma'am, sir, whoever's watching, please take a moment and follow us. If it is that you're on Facebook, do so by go ahead and sharing and liking and making sure you do the watch party or however it is that you can assist us in getting the word out this evening. If you're on Instagram, please go there and follow us there. Connect with us on Instagram, Twitter. Listen, Twitter community. We love you, and please engage us in our Twitter community. Always meaningful and riveting conversation that happens on Twitter. And then lastly, on YouTube, for many in our YouTube community, continue to make sure that you stay engaged with us. And if you're just joining us for the first time on YouTube tonight, please hit that notification bell and also hit that subscription button and make sure that you stay connected to LongTalk. All right? All right. Thank you so much for staying connected with us. Listen, this evening I've got important information on yesterday. It began here in the state of Georgia, but I need you, LongTalk audience, to stay the course with us and stay connected with our early voting here in the state of Georgia. Here in the state of Georgia, we are voting, and we are voting every day, beginning on yesterday, the 12th. And we're going to continue all the way up until the 30th of October. So every day, Monday through Friday, please make it your business. Make it your business to get out. I know that there have been a lot of long lines. People have given testimonies that they have been in line for 4 and 6 hours. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for hanging in there and staying the course and making sure that you cast your ballot. And reports are that we have already surpassed the entire early voting numbers of 2016, that we seemingly have done that in one day here in the state of Georgia. And boy, we are just excited. That hasn't been confirmed, but that was one report that came out, and we'll be checking that just to verify that. But if that is true, or if it is remotely true, if it's even just remotely true, we are so happy that you have gone out and you have began to early vote. So lastly, again, remember, you can early vote every day up until the 30th of October. And so we certainly want everybody that can. Don't wait until the 3rd when you have to stand in that line for, God forbid, 10, 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours. One of my neighbors told me this morning she got up before the crack of dawn, 5 o'clock in the morning, and she made her way to the local precinct, and she stayed there until a little past 9:30, I was told. And and she's a senior citizen, and we're so thankful that many of our seniors and just everybody's out here voting. Well, tonight, now that we've gotten all the housekeeping out of the way, tonight we are in for a special treat. We're in for a special treat because just over a couple of months ago, we brought this young lady on, and boy, I'm telling you, everybody responded and said, please bring her back. Please. I learned so much. I didn't get a chance to pose my question. And so we decided to bring her back. She had to do a great deal of shuffling her schedule, but I told her it was because the LongTalk audience really responded and really wished to hear more from her. And so tonight, with no further ado, we've already introduced her to you, LongTalk audience, but back by popular demand, our friend and our sister, Miss Parrise Nesmith. Hey, how's it going? How's it going?
All is well. I'm excited to be back. Friend and sister, that sounds so churchy. But I'm happy to be back.
Oh, we are so thankful that you have taken the time to come back and chat with us this evening, because we still got a lot of people that have a lot of questions, and we just want to make sure that we turn you loose tonight and allow you to just go ahead and answer as many questions and share as much information as you possibly can to help individuals with their credit. And before we do that, because believe it or not, Parrise, there's somebody tonight that did not watch our first episode that may not know exactly who you are. So quickly, just go ahead and introduce yourself once again.
Okay. Well, I am Parrise Nesmith, and I assist people with restoring their credit score so that they can have access to things that they normally wouldn't have access to, power to obtain things that they normally wouldn't have the power to. And so they can make demands instead of receiving commands. So that's me. I just help people restore their credit. I am passionate about it. I want to see our people blessed. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, thank you again for taking the time. I know you're a very busy woman, got a lot going on, but if you don't mind, I just want to jump right into this because, again, so many questions have come in, and even got a few questions that were left over from the last time that I had, and I want to pull them up just to get them off before I just turn you loose. But if you don't mind, let me just ask you a few of these questions. How can an individual, how can we get our credit limits increased? How can we go about effectively getting our credit limits increased? Yeah.
Well, that's easy. If you've had a good payment history for maybe 3 to 6 months, you can call your lender or your credit card company and ask them for a credit limit increase. Now, it may be harder during this time because credit card companies are trying to cut all liabilities. So you see and you hear of people getting their credit limit slashed for even those people that pay on time. They're getting those credit limits slashed. Some people have good payment history and credit standing with the credit card company, but the cards are closing. Some of us have a habit of having a credit card and not using it, right? Because we don't want to use it. So some of the credit card companies during this pandemic are actually closing down those accounts if it's not in use, even if you've had a good payment history, because they are trying to limit their liabilities. But it's easy. If you've had a good payment history, I would say at least 6 months. Some credit card companies will do 3 months, but at least 6 months, in my opinion, you call them, ask them for a credit limit increase, and 9 times out of 10, they will give you one. But the trick is to make sure that you're still using the amount of credit that you were before you got the increase, because that is going to actually help to boost your score.
Wow. And if I can ask the follow-up question, when you're looking at these increases, what's a general or a typical rather, what's a typical increase amount that you've seen?
It just all depends where your credit is at. It all depends on the credit card company. I've seen anywhere from $100 to thousands of dollars. So it just all depends on what your credit card company what they're willing to give you, and whatever they factor in to figure that out. But I've seen anywhere from $100 to thousands of dollars in increase.
Okay. So to all that have been wondering how to do that, you heard what she said this evening. All you have to do is get a good 3 to 6 months, preferably 6 months up under your belt. 6 months under your belt of on-time payments, and then contact your credit card issuer or company. Absolutely. And ask them for an increase.
Yes.
Wonderful. And then this is where I just really want to sort of turn you loose with these questions that were coming in, and still some that are still coming in. I'm trying to write them down as best I can. But practical ways. Could you give us some practical ways to increase our credit scores in general? Just some real practical ways that we can increase our credit scores in general.
Definitely. I'll actually give you 9. I'll give you 9.
So listen, before she starts, I need everybody go grab that cell phone, go to the notes. Many of my older listeners, get the pen and the paper, because the credit analyst is going to give us 9 ways to increase the credit score.
Absolutely.
All right.
So what you want to know while you're working to increase your score, especially during this time, if you don't have the money to pay for a specialist to help you to do that, is that there are several factors that help, that affect your score, right? And so some of those factors are age of credit, okay, the length of credit, how long you've had what you've had, utilization ratio, are you using it? Is it maxed out? Is it at the limit? The payment history, do you have any late payments? And inquiries. Some of us are serial appliers of credit, right? And some of us apply and we know we're going to get turned down. Well, that can actually work negatively against you, because it's going to, number one, decrease your score, by a couple of points, because those are considered hard inquiries. Those inquiries that show up on your report, they're considered hard inquiries. And the more inquiries you have, the lower your score is. And sometimes it could be 2 or 3 points. I've seen sometimes 15 points. It just all depends. And even sometimes you can go to one company and they run your credit 15 different times. CarMax is good for that. So they press that button one time, but they run it 15 times. And so you want to be careful of that. Those things work hand in hand to make up what your score is, the score that you're actually seeing. You want to know that your payment history is 35% of your score. It makes up 35% of your score. It is the biggest category when it comes down to how your score is calculated. Amounts owed is 30%. Okay, so that is that utilization rate for your credit cards and your loans. The length of credit is 15%, and the types of credit are 10%. Sometimes when people come to me, it's not that they have bad credit, it's that they have no credit. And that can be just as bad as having bad credit, right? They're still going to ask for a cosigner. They're still going to give you a bad interest rate because they have nothing to measure you by. So you want to make sure. Some people hate credit cards. And I have to tell them, well, you need some type of revolving credit, because if you don't have anything in your name, if you don't have a car note, if you don't have a mortgage, if you don't have some type of credit card or some type of loan, they have nothing to measure you by, and you're considered a risk because they don't know if they can trust you or not. So sometimes that's the biggest misconception, that if I pay everything in cash, I'll have good credit. No, you'll have no credit. And credit can buy you what money can't a lot of times. So the first way you can increase your score is paying down your revolving credit balances. So those are your credit cards. You want to make sure that you're paying those down. And the rule of thumb is to keep it anywhere between 30 or 10 and 30%. You want to keep it at 30% utilization if you just want good credit, fair credit, right? But if you want excellent credit, you want to keep it at that 10% utilization ratio so that you can have excellent credit. So you be the judge of that. You know, me personally, I wanted 10%, but you can still get by with 30%. But it's good to know that if you go anything above that 30%, you're going to see those scores come down drastically. Even if it's just by a little bit, it's going to come down. So that's the first thing you need to know. The second thing you need to know is what we just talked about, is getting a credit line increase. Okay, so that's a simple way to increase your score. And as we just said, once you get the increase, you want to continue to use what you were using. So for example, if you had $1,000 credit, a line of credit before the increase, right? And if you were only using 10%, that's $100. Well, if they increase it to $1,500, You want to continue to use only $100 because what it's going to do is lower your credit utilization, and that's going to increase your score. So that's just a rule of thumb, another easy way to increase your score. The third way is paying down student loans. And I know, I know we don't like to hear that. And we want the government to reduce our student loans down to 10,000 or wipe them out. But until then, if the government does not do that, if you are not in some type of program where they will forgive your loans after a certain amount of time, you need to work on paying those student loans down, so that can help to increase your score. Now, most people won't go that route because I've heard, I want to die with these loans. Hey, but if you can afford to do it, if you have the means to do it, that would be another good way to increase your score. The other way is to make sure that you're not closing old accounts. Now, this is the biggest mistake that my clients, they seem to do this without asking. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't have did that. They have old credit cards that they haven't used, and because they feel like they're on a fresh start or they're trying to go a new path, they end up closing those credit card accounts that were still open that they've had for like 10 years. You don't want to do that, because once you close that account that you've had for 10 years with good payment history, what you have now done is wiped off 10 years of good history off of your report. And a lot of times people will say, well, I got a new card and I closed my old one. So if you got a new card and you closed the one that had 10 years of history, now the credit bureaus only have this little bit of time that you have now gotten this new card versus 10 years of history to measure you by. And remember, the length of history is 10% of your score. So that can really negatively impact you, even though you thought you were doing a good thing. It's best to just keep it open, because it increases the length of credit history they have to measure you by. The fifth thing you want to do is don't pay off old collection accounts. Okay. There are some exceptions to this rule, but if that account has been sitting there 6 years, even 5 years, you don't want to contact the collection company and say, hey, I'm ready to pay, or if they may have sent you something through the mail, because what you do is you renew that 7-year statutory limit on that old bill. Okay. Wow. So that's what you don't want to do. You don't, if it's at 5 or 6 years, and like I said, there are some exceptions to this rule, but you don't want to go and start paying off these collection accounts, these old accounts that have been there for a long period of time because you renew that statutory limit. Okay. So you want to be careful of that. I think we're on number 6. You want to avoid opening a whole lot of new credit. Okay. Now, in some cases, some people need to open new lines of credit because they may not have any credit at all, any revolving credit. They may not have that. And so then in that case, it is good to open up a line of credit to help to boost your score. All right. Okay. But if you're doing that, and some people they go on a tangent with it, right? But you don't want to open any new credit back to back to back within a 30-day cycle. If you're going to do that, you want to make sure that you wait 30 days before you open up another account. If you need it. If you don't, then leave it alone. But this only really applies to those that don't have any credit at all, and they're trying to establish lines of credit. I wouldn't get more than 2. Really, I would just start with the 1, and maybe at the 6 months to a year mark, get another one. But I wouldn't go past 2. But you want to make sure that whatever you're applying for, that you're not applying for more than a 30-day period. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule, because say, for instance, if you're searching for a mortgage loan company to see which one is the better choice for you, then there is a period where you can shop around in a 30-day period, and it won't ding you, right? It won't count negatively against you, because the bureaus will see that you were shopping around for a home loan. So there are some other exceptions to the rule, but that's typically the rule of thumb. You want to make sure that you're not opening a lot of new accounts within a short period of time. You want to stay away from those finance companies. Those are your 90-day same as cash. Those type of companies, those furniture companies, those type of companies, they are typically considered bad credit loans, right? And you may not even have bad credit, but if you do that, it's in that category, right? And so a lot of times when the credit bureaus look at it and they say, oh, we're going to report this to help build your score. Well, depending on who's looking at your report, they may look at it as a bad credit loan, and it could possibly negatively impact you even if you pay it on time. So just all depends. You want to be very careful with that when it comes down to those 90 days, same as cash and all of that. And it sounds good, even though you're not getting interest if you pay it off in 90 days. But number one, everybody knows if you go one day over that 90 days, the interest rate is crazy. But it can also appear as a bad credit loan to some lenders when they look at it, even though it may not have even been the case. You got a question?
I'm just curious. When you talk about furniture companies, you'll see these advertisements all the time. 36 months or 24 months, 36 months, or 48 months. Is that fall up under that same umbrella?
Typically, depending on, now there are some people that have good credit and they get good deals. So they may say no interest for a year, right? And so typically you just got this loan at no interest and you have a year to pay it off. So that typically won't count for those that have good credit. But for those that don't, and they go to the 90 days, same as cash, and all of those are really deemed bad credit loans, either way you look at it. So depending on who's looking at your credit when they're pulling it, they may or may not deem that as bad credit loan. And even though some people say it helps to boost your credit and build your credit, first of all, you need to ask them, are you reporting to all three bureaus? Or are you reporting at all to any of the bureaus? Because some will say this will boost your score, but they don't report to any of the bureaus, so they lie. And then some will say, well, this will boost your score, but they only report to one bureau and not all three. So you want to ask those questions. And if you absolutely have to go that road, of course, you want to make sure it's set up to where you paid in 90 days. But just know that some loan companies or some lenders will look at it like a bad credit loan. And that may negatively impact you, and it may not. Rare case, but it could happen. I think we're on number 8. You want to make sure that you're not late. That's just the rule of thumb. That's something that we all know. But you want to make sure that you're not late, especially you may have some people on here that have excellent credit and have missed maybe one payment or have been late one payment on their credit card, and they see their score drop about 40 or 50 points. That is especially a rule of thumb for those that have good credit. It will negatively impact you more than it would that somebody that has average or low credit, right? But if you have good credit, ask around. If you have good credit and you forget to make that payment, it's going to drag your score all the way down. Okay, so in that case, if that happens to you, my suggestion would be to call your credit card company and see if you can arrange for them to send to the credit bureaus that you paid as agreed, that they updated because you've had good payment history for a long time. You forgot about the payment for whatever reason, if you were sick or whatever, and you want them to update it to say paid as agreed, because what that's going to do is wipe that late payment away and make it seem like you've never been late. So those that have good credit, you want to continue to make sure that you are paying that bill on time, because it most definitely negatively impacts you more than those that have average to low credit. And then the ninth thing is that we've already touched on this, is you want to make sure that you minimize your inquiries. A lot of people will tell you, if you're shopping around, especially for cable or internet or whatever the case is, I always ask, hey, will this be a hard inquiry? And they would tell me no. And then as soon as they say, okay, do you authorize us to whatever, I'm getting notification to my phone that there was a hard pull on my report. So you just want to be aware of that. Those are some necessities, right? But sometimes you just want to be careful if you're going to shop for a car. Like I mentioned CarMax earlier, you want to make sure that they are not running your credit 15 million times and you walk out with all these inquiries and still no car. Because now what's going to happen is not only will your score be lowered, but you will also walk to another company, and that's going to be a red flag to them, because you have all these inquiries on your report and you still have no car. So then they're really going to put you in a place to where, hey, we got her where we want her, or we got him where we want him. We're going to give him or her what we want them to have and charge him or her what we want to charge them, because they're between a rock and a hard place. They just need a car, right? So you want to be, be aware of running your credit several times. Those Macy's cards, or wherever your favorite store is, wherever you shop, and they say, would you like to apply for an extra 10%? Those $5 or $10 is not worth it. You don't need that. And some of us do that, even though we have a major main line of credit and we can just use that card, but we get so caught up in the 10%, which really doesn't add up to much. By the time you get a store credit card and the interest rate is like 28%, you got to read the red lines. Even with some of those airline credit cards, the interest rates are really, really high, and sometimes it's just not worth it. So those are 9 different ways you can increase your score or make sure that your score stays on the positive side of things.
Boy, that's some good information. Real good information. Look, just had a question come in. How accurate is Credit Karma and CreditWise?
Okay, so I don't know too much about CreditWise, but Credit Karma, it's accurate as far as seeing what's on your report. It's not always the most accurate when it comes down to your score. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people can attest. Credit Karma will tell you have an 800 credit score, and then you go to the car lot and they're like, girl, why you coming here with this 540, right? And so it just all depends. There are different scoring models, and it's important to know that. Most lenders, big lenders, mortgage lenders, car lenders, they look at your FICO score. What you see on Credit Karma and some of the other sites are your consumer score. They're there for education purposes, but the FICO score is measured on a whole nother metric, right? They look at different things which affect the score differently. It's important to know that there are several different credit scoring models, which is why it's confusing for us as consumers, because we look in different places and we think that's our score, not realizing where we're going to apply for the loan or the car or whatever the case is. They're looking at a whole nother metric, and they measure different things than what we're looking at, and we think that we're good. So you just want to be mindful of that. I would say if you're trying to see exactly where you at, you want to make sure that you're looking at your FICO score, because 9 times out of 10, those are what the mortgage companies and the car companies are looking at as it pertains to where you stand or where you fall on risk factors.
Okay, so the follow-up question is, so where can I go to see that FICO score?
You can go to Google, type in FICO, Experian.com, any of the major bureaus, the 3 major bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. And I think I mentioned before in the last show that right now, up until April 21st, I believe, that the credit bureaus are giving out 1 free report per week, every 7 days, to help keep up with what's going on with your report up until is next year. So that's one way you can do it. There's certain subscriptions with different credit bureaus that you can sign up for that will give you your FICO score. So really all you have to do is Google it, make sure it says FICO, but I would suggest going directly to the actual credit bureaus and signing up for a subscription there, because you know what you're really getting.
Wonderful, wonderful. Boy, you just unloaded a whole dump truck load of information on us here tonight. And as we try to cipher through this information, boy, you have really helped us. For those that are on Facebook or those that are on YouTube, we're going to give you another few minutes to just submit some of your questions. But while they do that, we want to take a quick break real quick, and then we'll come right back. And when we come right back, what we want to make sure that we do this time is just allow you the opportunity again, because I know you just unloaded quite a bit of information to us, but we want to give you that opportunity once more to just answer any follow-up questions that may come in during that time. Okay. All right. So what we'll do, take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
As a pastor, part of my job is to be there for families through some of the toughest times in their lives. I've counseled people through devastating health crises as they've lost jobs and livelihoods, and in recent months, loved ones to violence and disease that could have and should have been prevented. All too often, these are people whom government has forgotten or for whom it was never there in the first place. I'm Raphael Warnock, and I'll always work for you. That's why I approve this message.
Equality versus equity. Equality means every child gets a pair of shoes. Equity means every child gets a pair of shoes that fit. That means every school district has to meet every student's individual needs.
I'm Jerry O'Green with the Black Student Advocate. We advocate for Black employees and Black students within the K-12 school districts. We hold school districts accountable to make sure that Black students and employees are in a fair and equitable workplace.
Okay, great. We're back here on LongTalk this evening with the credit analyst. And boy, she is really dropping information. And as we were on commercial break, we saw that a few more questions came in. And I just want to pose this one to you. Is there a way you can, or how valuable is paying your bills on time to your credit score? Paying your bills on time. And I think you answered that again, but just restate that for those who may just be tuning in for us. How important is to pay your bills on time as it relates to your credit score?
So it's a big deal. It's 35% of your score, right? Payment history is 35% of your score. It's the biggest chunk out of your score. So it's very important to make sure that you keep a positive payment history so that you can keep a positive score. You can be on the right side of the spectrum when it comes down to credit scoring. So it's really important because it's the biggest chunk. So you want to make sure, and I plugged this in the last segment that we did. If you know that you're going to be late, call your company and let them know. Don't avoid the phone calls. Don't just not say anything, because what you need to know is that no company has to report anything at all to the credit bureaus. There's no law that says that they have to report late payments. They just do because it works in favor of them. Late payments, lower score, higher interest rates. They have relationships with the banks and all of that type of stuff. But there's no law that says that they have to report anything on you at all. And a lot of times you'll find that a lot of companies don't, because it costs them to put things on your report. So a lot of times if you just make that step to reach out, let them know what's going on when you're expected to make a payment, then a lot of times they won't even report the late payment, given that it's in the spectrum of being 30 days within the time frame that it was due. Most times, if it's outside of the 90 days, they're probably going to report it late or report it as a missed payment, which is worse than being reported late. A missed payment is past the 30 days. A late payment is within the 30 days. But again, if you just reach out and make that agreement, or reach out and let them know what's going on, a lot of times companies won't even bother to report the late payment if it's within those 30 days.
Okay. Another question just came in. Make sure I got this one right. If I have recently been a victim of foreclosure, what should I do as it relates to trying to purchase another house? How long should I wait before I try to purchase another house?
So that's really outside of my expertise, but I'll speak to what I know about it. Okay. But I can't really go that much in detail because that's out of my scope. But what I can tell you is that given what I've heard from friends that are loan officers, a lot of times after foreclosure, they say after 2 years, you're eligible to get another house. I've heard where some people have gotten a house before the 2 years, but normally from what I've been told from realtor friends and loan officer friends, that normally that rule of thumb is that after you've been in foreclosure, you can get another house after the 2-year period has been up from the date that your house was foreclosed on.
Wow. Okay. Great. Well, again, as many questions have come in, we thank you so much tonight for taking the time to come on and talk to us. These 9 ways, I'm telling you, I got to go back and watch this again, because you shared some meaningful information that a lot of us can really apply to our lives today. I will tell you this, an overwhelming response that we heard from our last segment was when you were talking about paying the monthly utility bills on the credit card. Can you just speak to that one more time? when you talked about why it is most advantageous that the average consumer or homeowner, or we'll just say consumer for that matter, will pay those monthly utilities with a credit card in opposed to a debit card?
So I think you're kind of meshing the two things that I said. So there's a program, and I think I saw someone, I'm looking at the comments, and he said, is there a way for you to link your bills to your on-time payment for credit scoring? And I think that is meshing the two of the questions that you had. So there is a way.
Sure.
I think it's Experian, where you can link your on-time payments to your utilities so that it can positively impact your score. So every time you make an on-time payment, it will send the word to the credit bureaus that you've made that on-time payment, and you'll get credit for it, and it can boost your score significantly. I've seen anywhere from 15 to 50 points depending on what you have going on your report. It just depends. There's different people have different things on their report, so that will affect their score in different ways. So that is one way that you can do that. Now, he also asked, is it wise to do that? It is not wise to do that if you don't pay your bills on time, right? So if you know that you only pay your bills on time one time out of the year, that would not be a wise thing for you to do. Because if you don't pay your bill on time, it will negatively impact you. It will have a reverse effect on what you're trying to do. But if you know that you pay your bills on time and you're good with budgeting and making sure things are taken care of, then that's something you most definitely want to absolutely do. Now, to speak to the other side of your question, what I was saying is a lot of times we run from credit cards. But credit cards can be a good thing if you know how to use it. And so typically we're used to paying our bills with debit cards, right? Well, that's just fake plastic. That does nothing for you. But what you want to do, if you have the means to do it, is go ahead and pay your bills on your credit card and pay it off every time with the money that's in your bank account. Because what you're going to do is get credit for it. They're going to see that you're using your credit limit responsibly and that you're actually paying it off every month on time. So you want to do that, because if you're swiping that debit, which by the way, debit cards were made for people that couldn't obtain credit cards. It's fake plastic. It has no positive effects on your credit score at all. So you want to, if you have the means to pay your bills with your credit card and pay it off with the money that you would typically use, go ahead and do that, because that's going to positively affect your score. But if you know that you have problems with budgeting, you're buying stuff that you really shouldn't, don't have the money for, it's not in your bank account. If you are not good with that, then don't do that. By all means, keep using the fake plastic. But if you are good, or even if you're not good and you want to get good, go ahead and make that budget. Start paying your bills with your credit card, pay it off with the money in your bank, and watch your score, go to all-time, I won't say all-time high, but you will see it positively climb. Because they will see that you're responsible with what they gave you. And then it will also be easier for you to request that credit limit increase that we talked about earlier in the segment.
Well, we're going to bring this to a close on this evening, but thank you so much again for coming on and talking to us. Boy, you have really helped our audience here again tonight. So many have already chimed in with those questions. And you have answered them, and I really sincerely appreciate you carving the time out to come and talk to us again tonight. And, I asked you this last time, but I'm going to ask you to come back again in the near future in around the holiday season, because I know you're going to have some information to help all of us as we get out in this holiday season and begin our shopping and begin preparing, for the holiday season, and to help many of us avoid many of the untimely mistakes that we seemingly make year after year.
Yeah.
So,
and I do want to put this other plug in. I mentioned last time that right now the student loan companies are suspending interest until the top of the year. If you can pay those loans down or off, this would be the time to do it while there's no interest right now. They have suspended the interest. So and let me just be clear, there are a lot of companies that are suspending the interest on debt. So whatever debt you have, you want to call that company and see if they're doing that, and go ahead and pay. I've paid some things off because they've suspended the interest on it. Okay, so you want to go ahead and make sure and call your company. So that's another way to save some money during this holiday season. Go ahead and pay some stuff off, so when the new year starts, you're on the right track.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. If I said 1,000 times, I mean it every single time. Thank you so very much for sharing this most helpful information, and I'm sure many will continue to try to connect with you, and I would tell everybody that's trying to connect with her, please go and follow her at Parrise Nesmith, and you can do it at _ParriseNesmith. Boy, I've struggled with that, but I've hopefully got it.
My name so many times, but yes, I'm so happy you put it down there, so I didn't have to try to spell it out because people still get it wrong. So while it's on the screen, y'all, go follow me on Instagram. Come find me on Facebook. I will be the only face to pop up. There's only one Parrise that I know of. Parrise Nesmith, that is. So y'all be good. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come back and share my knowledge with your following, and to come on your platform and just share what I know. I do appreciate you.
Again, thank you, and hope to see you before the end of the year.
Yes, sir.
All right, take care now.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Friends, we are made the better because of tonight's conversation. It is our sincere desire each time that we have this opportunity to come on that we provide useful, and I mean that with all sincerity, useful information to benefit our community. Most of us are victims of just not being taught. The old African proverb is true. When you know better, you do better. And sessions like this really help us to know better, to make the drastic improvements. Since the very first time she came, I've had those sit-down conversations with my wife and my family, my mother and some of my aunts and uncles, and boy, it has revolutionized. And somebody will say, boy, you all should have known that already. Well, you might be right, but when it is that you finally know better, it is to do better. And so we have taken many steps because of what Parrise has shared with us and made our lives drastically better. And I pray that the same has happened for you guys, and that you have just been able to evolve and help your credit. You heard her say sometimes credit can get you places where your money cannot. And so you certainly always want to give attention. And we here at LongTalk always want to give attention to helping individuals. We don't charge any money. One thing that we can proudly say, we've never solicited one dime on this show. But it is because of your generous support that many people do send us donations. And I appreciate you guys for doing that. And I don't solicit them, but if you choose to do so, you always know how you can do it. You can do it right here at LongTalk by going to many of these platforms. But listen, I do want you to connect with us. Whether you ever support us in any other way, please connect with us. And do so by going to all of these platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. They're at Daunta Long, and you connect with us because you never know what meaningful dialogue could change your life for the better. All right. Well, a lot to say, and we'll be back on Thursday night. I'm going to have another meaningful dialogue in store for you. Until that time, remember, get out, vote, make sure that you stay the course, no matter how long you may have to wait, no matter how long it may take. Please, you can early vote. Again, I'll put it up there all the way until the 30th. Man, do whatever you can. Take some snacks, take a chair, take a good book to read. Make sure you got internet access, whatever it's going to take to help you pass the time along. But please, cast your ballot. All right? Thank you so much again. We appreciate you. We'll see you Thursday night right here on LongTalk. God bless. Take care.
Follow us on Facebook at Daunta Long. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta Long. Thank you for tuning in to LongTalk.